Do I think Bitcoin price is going to be over $100,000 in the next 4 years? 100% I do. Well, okay, if you're an investor and you have an asset that you have very high confidence that's going to do a double in the next 4 years, well, you probably want to allocate a significant amount of your money to that investment. And that's really kind of the way I'm practically looking at this as an investor. And I think it really should give you confidence that you want to hold this asset over the long term, and you want to hold not just 1% or 2% of your net worth in it, but something much more substantial.
In a recent interview on Simply Bitcoin with Fred Krueger, we delved into the power law, its mechanics, and its implications. At the time of this discussion, Bitcoin was trading at $57,000, with less than a 1% increase in the last 24 hours and less than a 1% decrease over the past 7 days. Fred Krueger explored the intriguing concept of power laws and their application to predicting Bitcoin's price. He explained how this mathematical principle can aid in understanding and forecasting Bitcoin's future value. Krueger highlighted the significance of identifying patterns in Bitcoin's price history as indicators of future trends, while also addressing the limitations and potential pitfalls of depending too heavily on any single predictive model.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Well, my thoughts is the first question you had, I think, is let's go back to that, right? Because I think that's where a lot of people are getting confused, right? They're sort of saying, well, there's, the ship has sailed on Bitcoin. I need to get involved in dog coins, okay? And my point to you guys is there's still a lot of action in Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin could go up 30, 40% a year for the next 5 years, maybe even the next 10 years on average. And those are exceptionally great yields. You shouldn't be too greedy. Now, if you start saying, yeah, well, that's not enough for me, I need to go into dog coins. The problem is your, dog coins, they could lose 90% of their value in under a year. Right? So it doesn't make sense to say, here's an investment that can give me maybe 30, 40% a year. And it's not good enough for me. I need to get 400% a year. And therefore I'm going to risk it all on something that's a really bad bet. And it's just going to crater my entire position. So I just think that's just bad. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's just a bad investment ideology. And I made a post about this, which is, look, I think Bitcoin is not meant for making money per se. It's meant for saving the money that you have. So, you should look at it as you're going to be increasing your value and purchasing power of every Bitcoin you buy. That Bitcoin will buy you more house. It'll buy you more car. It'll buy you more food 10 years from now than it does today, right? But, maybe for 2-3 years, it buys you the same amount. Who knows? But it generally speaking is a very good savings thing. And yeah, I do think it's going to buy you a lot more and it's going to do very well. But it's also has a very good downside risk, as the power law indicates. Now, if you go and you say, well, it's not good enough, I need to go complete degen. Well, I'm just saying that it's not smart, right? You should not go into the worst, dog coin that you can find just because you want massive volatility and you want to shoot for the moon. So I'm okay with what Giovanni's saying. I'm okay with doing some trading around using the Bitcoin power law or whatever you want to do. What I'm not okay with is you taking your money and just putting it on, on the number 22 on roulette, because you're going to lose probably. So, yeah, I think Einstein sort of said it. I think Einstein was the person who said it. Was I think Warren Buffett said it again, which is compound interest. And the biggest miracle of the fifth world wonder, or whatever it is. But basically, compounding is everything, right? So if you can compound out And you don't need to compound out at 40% either. You can, if you compound out at 10, 15%, you're going to do great. You know, if you've got a few years in front of you, it makes sense to be more, to have a longer term time horizon, right? So that's all I'm saying. And I think, yeah, you make a very good point that, you know, you took it, let's just do a simple math. Let's say 1.4 to the power 10. Okay, that's 29 times, right? So if you could do 40% per year, right, for 10 years, right, you don't get 4 times your money, right? You don't get you get 29 times your money. Right? So these things kind of compound out, and they make it very, very attractive. And you get it 29 times pre-tax. You don't have to pay any tax if you don't sell your Bitcoin, right? So I think that's the other thing that's very important to realize, that you should look for something that's very tax efficient, right? So just buying and selling, buying and holding your Bitcoin, it's very tax efficient, and it's one of the best ways that you can make money. Now, if you find something that's as good as Bitcoin, start spreading your risk by all means. Okay, I have not found something quite as good as Bitcoin, so I'm long some QQQs, right? Because I think they're pretty good. They're nowhere near as good as Bitcoin, right? I don't like them at all as much as Bitcoin, but I'm okay with owning some stocks, right? I'm okay with owning some real estate, but you have to realize that the growth thing here in my portfolio is Bitcoin. So, I think, you want to try to get a very good compound growth, and you want to get it over a significant period of years, right? I definitely agree with, it is a proto network right now. There is a network that you can go to any country and exchange your Bitcoin for the local currency. That's doable now. But we're still early, right? We're still in year 15 of Bitcoin, right? I do fully expect that in the next 15 years, right, we're going to have Bitcoin be much more of a payment network, and we're going to have much more apps built on Bitcoin, and we're going to be able to trade Bitcoin for perhaps stable coins or central bank digital currencies, or I don't know what, right? But there's going to be more of an ecosystem that builds around Bitcoin. There's going to be many, many more people using Bitcoin. So it's going to be much more like a social network. It will be a much more like, as Giovanni said, the cell network. And really, you will not be able to live without Bitcoin. So I think we're just in this we're still very early days. And, but we are seeing the beginning of a new financial network. And the value is in the network. It's in what are the network effects here? And so I think by buying Bitcoin, you're betting that this network is going to be built around Bitcoin and not around any other cryptocurrency or any other solution. So,
as we just heard Fred Krueger talk about the power law.
As we just heard, Fred Krueger discussed the power law and its significance in determining Bitcoin's current and future prices. Now, let's delve deeper into the power law model. Krueger explains that a power law is a mathematical relationship between two quantities, where one quantity varies as a power of another. In the context of Bitcoin, this implies that the price tends to increase exponentially over time, following a predictable pattern. He stresses that although the power law model has been notably accurate in forecasting Bitcoin's price trends so far, it's crucial to recognize its limitations and the potential for deviations. Now, let's listen to Fred Krueger on Simply Bitcoin as he elaborates on the power law model.
A bunch of people have said power law is bullshit. Joe Carlosali has come out and power law is bullshit, Fred, because power laws are not able to predict things, and they were used to predict the population of Chicago 30 years ago, and they failed. Well, I don't care about the population of Chicago 30 years ago. It doesn't matter to me. It's not what's relevant. What's relevant is we have this model that is very predictive, and it's very predictive, and it has worked very well over the entire span of Bitcoin, which is, as Giovanni said, It has gone over 6 orders of magnitude, and it's an exceptionally predictive model. You don't see these things at all, And even if you look at stocks like Microsoft, which have gone up, 3,000 times since their IPO, you don't see stuff that's gone up 100,000 times or 1,000,000 times. So, I think this power law for Bitcoin is very, very unusual, and the fit is just so remarkably good that, it's something like I've been looking at models, and Giovanni's been looking at models. I've been looking at financial models a long time, and I've never seen anything like this. It really is a remarkable. It's not something you just see every day. So I'm willing to step up and say, yeah, I think it's going to continue. That would be my thing. Now, do I have to say it's going to continue for 20 years? I don't. If I think it's going to continue for 4 years, good enough for me. You know what I mean? Now, I do happen to think it's going to continue for much longer than 4 years, but let's not even have that discussion. Let's just focus on the next 4 years. I think the power law is, what it is it's a very straightforward relationship between the Bitcoin price and time, and sort of a one variable in the power law, which is time, right? And it's, if you look at the log of time and you plot the log of Bitcoin price, you see that the two have very strong correlations, and you can dive in as deep as you want, but it's a very, very steady relationship in log space. And since other discoveries on the power law in particular, the power law also applies for the number of addresses holding a certain amount of Bitcoin. There's a lot, and also the hash rate of the entire Bitcoin network. So there's a lot of power laws. They all fit together very well, and that's kind of that's what the power law is. And why do I like it? Because it explains Bitcoin price very well. I think I like the fact that Giovanni makes a point that this is not technical analysis, right? So, a lot of people say, I'm just going to draw a line through a bunch of charts like on TradingView or something. And, and people always say, well, Bitcoin proves you wrong. But I think what Giovanni's saying is the entire history of price of Bitcoin fits the power law. It actually does. There's no part of the history of Bitcoin that doesn't fit the power law and doesn't fit it really well. So if you have some reason to think that the power law is going to break, you really have to think something very different is going to happen in the future than what happened over the last 15 years of Bitcoin. So, and the last thing I'll say is, I think, we can talk about, what's going to happen with the power law 10 years, 20 years from now. But I think really what everybody really cares about is what's going to happen with the power law in the next 4 years, right? And the power law makes some predictions, and it makes pretty definitive prediction. It sort of says, well, by say 2030, the absolute lowest part on the power law is something like I don't have it in front of me, but let's just say it's $200,000 per Bitcoin, right? By 2030. Now, if you had a model that would predicted it very well, that has all these different elements to it, like the number of addresses, the number of hash rate, and all this stuff, and it has this predictive ability, and the predictive ability has been so good so far, you don't have to call it a law. You can just say it's a very, very effective model. But I would say you'd be crazy not to at least take that model into severe account. That's all I'm going to say.
As we conclude this interview with Fred Krueger on Simply Bitcoin, let's recap the key points. We explored the power law model and its application to Bitcoin's price prediction, understanding how this mathematical concept can potentially forecast Bitcoin's future value. Krueger emphasized the model's historical accuracy while also cautioning about its limitations. Now, let's consider two thought-provoking questions. How might external factors, such as regulatory changes or technological advancements, impact the accuracy of the power law model for Bitcoin? How can individual investors use this knowledge responsibly in their decision-making process? These are important considerations as we navigate the complex world of cryptocurrency investing. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.